Hello, my name is Kathryn Clark. We were talking in our last podcast about intelligence and a side effect which I call artificial inflation. And I'm thinking more and more about what it is artificial intelligence can't do. Because from what I'm being told, it absolutely can do everything. And we can all like politely walk off the planet now because we have this artificial intelligence. So there's really like, who is it for? People. I mean, at the very least, it's to benefit lives, right? So, but there is it's bringing a bit of attitude, let's say. Anyway, I was thinking of what it can't do, and I thought of this story. I thought of a person. So sometimes you go to college and you go to college really to learn how much you don't know in one field, and that's the hope. The idea of higher education is to help us explore the amount of wisdom in a given area and hopefully become proficient enough in that area to get some kind of a job or earn a living or make a contribution, really, in some fashion, however small, however big. Um, I remember listening to a person, you've probably seen this on the internet, a person talking about the man who came for this massive ship. And when he got there, he like put in two screws. I'm making this up now for the purpose of this concept, and screwed in two screws. And then he walked out, and his bill was like, I don't know, $600,000. And somebody said, well, that's a heck of a lot of money to make for putting in two screws. And he said, I didn't make the money for turning two screwdrivers or two screws. He said, I made the money for looking at this size of a ship and knowing exactly what two screws needed to be turned to fix the problem. You see what I'm saying? Now, well, that man had a lot of knowledge that enabled him to do that. And I think I see this with tradesmen. Oh, by the way, if you're not doing anything else, become a tradesman because you'll never be out of work. I think I see that like would people would begrudge somebody their pay or minimize a contribution that somebody made. Um, but the key is like no more than that. If that person is the only one who can do that, well, they've earned their money. Never minimize the contribution you make. Never think your presence in a given place is not important. People just don't know what they bring to other people. Um, I've seen this so many times in families where one person in the family is depressed and the rest of the family is just counts on takes it for granted what they're bringing. We can take for granted that other people understand their importance to us. We can just assume they know that without them we would be missing a very important contribution to our life. And in fairness, we ourselves can take for granted what a person brings to us and how a person contributes in our life, to our well being, to our feeling of security or our feeling of belonging. And sometimes everybody counts, everybody's important. When you take that person out, a priest told me one time, I was talking about somebody who was like, let's call it the house mouse. Sometimes you have people who are the house mouse and they're quiet in the house and maybe they're the ones who don't leave and they stay in the home place, what, here in Ireland we would call the home place. And they live they make a small imprint from the mind's eye. But then when they die, one person like this died in our area. And Father John Murphy said to me, oh, believe me. I said, they're really struggling with this, that this person died. And he said, oh, those are the ones you miss the most. Those are the ones people have trouble getting over their loss. Their their impact can be unseen, uncelebrated, and undernoticed. But when they're gone, people just really lose their equilibrium. So maybe this is you. Maybe you know someone like this. Make sure they know they're important. And if it's you, you're important. You count for something. I remember saying this to somebody once, but sure, without you, uh, X, Y, and Z. And the person was like, really? And this was in the workplace. And I said, I mean, I don't know how you're missing this, how you can't see what you bring to the rest of the team. Anyway, all right, back to my story. So there's a young woman goes to college to learn how much she doesn't know about something, and she graduates, and she doesn't know what she wants to do. That's a weird period when you graduate from college. People can get vertigo, and I remember one woman telling me everyone had a plan but me. She said they all knew exactly what they were going to do next, and I had no idea. She said I really loved college. I had a great time. I didn't want to graduate. I didn't want it to end. And she said, and I didn't know what to do next. Now, she went on to be a great prosecutor and do wonderful things when she figured it out. So, this woman I'm talking about goes on a trip to China, and it was something to do. And she's walking around in a city, and they're walking through an area that's very impoverished or urban. Let's call it urban in an ugly way. And as they're walking down, let's call it an alley, she hears a sound. It sounds like a human or an animal, like crying or, not very strongly. But she's like, what's that noise? I swear, I feel like I'm hearing a puppy or a baby or something. And the person said, oh, on the other side of this building, we're in the back of an orphanage. And if the babies are too small or not doing well, they just put them out uh, in the rubbish. And so they're literally thrown out. So the person said, just keep going. It's not good to stop. We just have to keep moving quickly. Now, when you're in a foreign country like that, especially somewhere like that, you have to play ball with the locals or your guides, generally speaking. But this girl said, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with my life. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know what I'm not doing. And that's walking past a teeny tiny person who's in a garbage can. So she went back. She pulled a little girl out of the garbage can. And the person said, what are you going to do now? It's not like you can take that child. That person is dying. This baby is dying. What are you going to do? She said, I'm going to bring her home. I'm going to bring her to my little hotel room. I'm just going to hold her. And so she wrapped the baby up so no one could see. She went back to her hotel room and she held this teeny tiny baby until the baby died. And then she knew, I think I know what I'm going to do, at least for now. So she stayed in China, and every day she walked past there. And if there was somebody there being thrown out, she took the baby home. And what she did was establish a hospice for throwaway people. And it started in her little room. And I mean, when I say little, it was little, it was a tiny room. And then someone came and stayed with her and helped her. And then her greatest achievement, she would say, was that a couple Chinese women joined the team. And of course, they bigger premises, funding came from America, from her friends in the States, and they established a very good hospice for those babies. Now, there was a baby who lived for almost 2 years, and every baby had a name. Every baby was loved. Most died um, shortly after they came. But she said, they died loved and they died sang to and caressed and treasured. And she said, I don't know about anything else, but this was a contribution I could make. Now, living in China at that time was not easy. It was not easy. But this woman suffered it. Now, one time, so they have this baby boy who comes in, and generally it was the girls being thrown out. They would try to keep the boys going. So the boy lives to be like 2 years old. Now, in the rare instance, a child recovered and they placed the child for adoption, but mostly they died. So the boy is doing great, and the Chinese women are close to him, and he's making everybody laugh. This little boy is hilarious. He's up to tricks. He's up to antics. and they're enjoying him. And it's, for them it was wonderful because this baby was growing and developing rather than dying. So that was different. And they just he gave them incredible joy. But he did die somewhere before 2 years old. And when he died, the woman saw that the Chinese women were crying. And she said, I knew I could go, because she had been there a long time and she needed to go home because this was not an easy walk. Um, she said, I knew I had done my job because my goal was that the Chinese women would be given permission to love little babies, thrown away babies, poor babies, discarded babies, and understand the value of their life. It's intrinsically valuable. You can't put a price on it. And so she turned it over to Chinese women, and she was able to go home. She was there long, many years. Now, I would just say this, now, not being a dose, but consider this. Would artificial intelligence do that? We have people right now doing similar things to what that woman did. And they're only doing them because they're in a place, they see a need, their heart is moved, and they say, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know what I'm not going to do. And they, in a moment, combined with the Spirit, the higher power, Jesus Christ, whatever you want to call it, God, they feel the tap and they go after it. I don't think artificial intelligence is going to do that, guys. I think it's always going to take human beings. Um, people have different feelings about the news. They tend to have strong feelings about the news. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't care. I can't bear it because I remember what the news was. And on local channels, here's what it was. 6 people were killed today when an accident occurred. Now it's all propaganda. It feels to me, I feel like you're trying to tell me to think this way. It's transparent and offensive. And I don't know why more people aren't offended by it, but it really offends me. There's these young men who said the news is biased and people are mad about it. People are sick of it. So let's create a news source that's really balanced. And it's called Roca News. They're very funny because they're just young men. There's a kind of a sense of humor to it. There's a little bit of irreverency about themselves, which is amusing, but they give it to you straight. Now, is artificial intelligence going to say people are really mad about the news and the biases built into it? So let's do something radical and report it ourselves and just give people facts, and let's check ourselves for bias, and let's report both sides like in an even Steven kind of way where, here's the facts, you decide what you think about them. Anyone listening would love this news source. It's called Roca News. Look it up and you can get it on your phone. Everything else, they had an in-depth story on something. I couldn't get it on because I'm not on TikTok or wherever the heck it was. They're very polite when I contacted them and said, I can't access all your platforms. But I think you'll have fun with it. It's the only news I read, and I don't watch news, but they're doing videos too. Again, why do I like it? Because it's not artificial intelligence. They're out there interviewing people. The good, bad, and the ugly responses that come from these people, they're all out there. They don't edit them down. They give people a chance to talk and give their perspective. And what you're looking at are real people having real experiences and talking about it. It's phenomenal. Artificial intelligence isn't going to do that for us. It would create something that was developed to prove a point or support an already established position. And that's not what you need. You need independent thinking. You need to develop your integrity based on what you experience, not based on what someone tells you integrity is. You're learning about your integrity. I'm 63. I'm still figuring out mine. But we have to engage in the process. So that's what I have to say about that. I think this woman was phenomenal. And now, you know what she did that was interesting too? I know this from experience. She focused. She had a single-minded focus on the well-being of the babies. Did she go on to get medicine, et cetera, et cetera? She was a bit like Mother Teresa in the sense that she's like, look, I can't save these babies. I can just love them and be with them and make sure. She said, I know when they die, they're going to love. They're going to God, and God loves them now. He loves them today before they die. She said, so, what we're making sure happens is they go from love to love. And that is the full human experience, really, even though their lives were days or hours or, weeks. Um, so that's that's pretty phenomenal. Okay, now stay with me on this and don't judge me for this. I'm thinking about this and I was thinking this artificial intelligence thing, it's a bit Luciferian. Lucifer envied God and his divine intellect and his um effortless power, his authority. Sometimes authority just is. And it's the best kind of authority. Someone's holding authority well when they're not talking about it or exerting power plays. They just hold a space where authority holds a position. There's something beautiful about authority that's righteous. But this Luciferian thing, Lucifer wanted to be God. He wanted to replace God. And I can't help but wonder about the way we're receiving and viewing artificial intelligence. And like, I'm telling you, in a sense, I was like listening to some people, I'm thinking, you're like worshiping this. It's like it's become a small God to you. And in a way, in a weird way, what you want to say is tap, tap, tap. It's not your intelligence. It shouldn't be making you inflate because simply worshiping it doesn't mean you are it. Lucifer envied God. He envied him. And now there's jealousy. Okay, what is jealousy? Wow, I love that green coat. I want one. No problem. Fair enough. That's a natural human experience that we're all going to experience is jealousy. Now, you don't go and steal the coat. That would be something different. If you throw a bucket of paint on the coat, you're destroying it with the goodness of it. That would be envy. Okay, so jealousy is a natural human experience. Don't freak out if you feel jealousy. We're all going to feel it. We're all going to encounter that. It's what we do that counts, keeping it under control and reasonable. But envy is something else. It means I I wish I had that thing. I don't have that thing. And it makes me hate you and want to deface that thing, destroy what is beautiful, destroy what is good about you, distort it. Have you ever had someone do this to you? Trust me, it was envy, where they totally try to distort you and deface you because they're envious of you. It tells you. I mean, people doing things like this, you feel so sorry for them because you're thinking you're simply exposing yourself. And while everyone can't see it or know, many of us do. Like if you think of sexual assault, I used to always think, do they realize what they're doing there? What they're saying about themselves? You know, it's not a good look for you. It's not a good look for you. You got to wonder why. Um, you know, so I'm sure no one wants to hear me rant about porn anymore, but I do know that it is an understandable uh, quandary that people find themselves in when they're addicted. It's understandable neuroscientifically. And I think people have a lot of shame over it. Like I thought, remember, guilt is I've done a bad thing. Normal human experience. We're all going to feel guilty. We should, hopefully we all feel guilty about something we've done in our life. It's normal. It's putting your hand up. It's literally saying, I acknowledge it. I own it. I've done a bad thing here. Shame is different from guilt. Shame that, there was the toxic shame um, label that came out, I think, in the 80s. And it's good. It's very good. Um, it's good that we know about it. What is shame? It means I'm a bad person. You're internalizing I am a bad person. And what comes with that? Oh, and a need to conceal that from other people. You know you're feeling shame and that you're in a troublesome place if you're thinking, I have to conceal this from other people. I have to hide this so nobody knows that I'm a bad person. Okay, if you feel like that, that's you're having a feeling of shame and you got to dig in on that and say, okay, wait a minute. This is not okay. I'm a child of God, created to do good things, and yet I have made mistakes. I will own them and move on. Um, whatever it is you feel shame about, wonder. I'm just asking you to wonder about it. Don't just walk around like that. Wonder. And if it's a sexual thing, know that you're in a very large group of humanity who feels sexual shame because it's been banged into us. And isn't it funny how porn has now, we go from puritanical sexual shame to, based on what I can see, anything goes. Um, Interesting. So maybe that's a pendulum swing that will swing back to some kind of sexual expression and identity that's within the sanity range, as opposed to, like, most of you probably aren't having sex right now. I mean, we're not just sexual beings, we're it's just a part of us. And I heard a psychotherapist say, what is the obsession with sex? Um, the pornography culture is rendering a lot of people unable to share themselves sexually with other people. Um, that's the real tragedy, because there's such joy in connection. We were intended for connection. This is a bit all over the place. How do I rein this in? Okay, let's go back to the two important things, guilt and shame. So, guilt, yeah, I did a bad thing. I put my hand up. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to kick it to the curb now, do what I can to make up for it, and then move on. That's called reparation. I'm going to do what I can to make up for the mistake and move along. You're not simply your bad actions. You're also made up of your wonderful actions, your kindness, your integrity, your moment where you made good choices. You're full of all the good choices. So don't let these bad ones sit there and be like an environmental toxin in your psyche. Move on from your past. Move on today. Move on right now. Be free. Move on. God, make me free. Make me free of this. God's over it. God's over it. God accepts, he died for all of humanity, every single person. Christ died to redeem. Redemption is something collective. We share it with every human being on the planet based on our Christian tradition. This is what we believe. You're one of those people. Christ has redeemed you. He expected you to make mistakes. He wanted you to have a way to understand that making a mistake doesn't ruin your life, even though it can have consequences that impact your life. The worst consequence a mistake can have is to interfere with your knowledge that you're a good person. You're more than a big mistake. You're way more than a big mistake. So, okay, that's guilt and shame. Then what was the other one? So there was guilt and shame. Oh, jealousy and envy. Let's talk. I'm really fun today, aren't I? This is really bright stuff we're doing. Everyone's like depressed and crying. I'm sorry. But don't be afraid of feelings of jealousy. Do be alert if you feel like, oh, that person has this and I don't. Therefore, oh, I hate that person for this. And then projecting all this garbage onto the person because they have something you want or that you feel you don't have. If you feel you don't have something, go get it if you want it. Your life is yours. If you want more of something, go after it. And don't be ashamed to go after something you want unless it's illegal or it's a bad thing, you know? Um, and, really compete with yourself unless you're in sports. Uh, this competitive, what's really fun is competitive spirituality. This gives everyone a laugh, or it should. Um, have you ever had a conversation with somebody and no matter what you say you've done in prayer or whatever, they top you? Oh, I did a holy hour at 2:00 in the afternoon on Wednesday. Oh, I did a well, I shouldn't say this because you need those night coverage of the adoration chapels. We don't want those people to think I'm mocking them because I am not. But the people who are competing with you, who always try to top you, don't be that person. Don't compete against anyone that way but yourself. And our journey, our spiritual journey is never going to look like anyone else's ever. So if you're trying to be like someone else spiritually, you're going nowhere. Because the only way you know where to go spiritually is by looking at God, yourself. And you, my friend, are looking out of your eyes, your soul. Artificial intelligence can't do that. It can't replace this thing that's written on your heart, which is this longing for God. And they say the word of God is written on the human heart. Oh, maybe I'm botching something. Um, maybe someone will tell me. But morality, goodness, like it doesn't just come from religion. There's a world full of people out there doing the right thing because it's the right thing. So, like being a religious person isn't a free pass into heaven. Not that I think you'll have any trouble getting, we were built for heaven. But there are a lot of people who aren't religious doing well morally because they're doing the right thing. Their personal integrity is known to them. They know themselves. No one can look at God and figure out what God hopes you and He can do together. But you, no artificial intelligence is going to replace that. All right, my friends, it's good to be with you. God bless you. Lots of love.